All right, so number 21 asks you to find the equation of a line, and you want the equation in slope-intercept form, and you're told that the line, this line here, has slope 3/4, and that the line contains this point. Now, when we found the equation of a line, remember we looked at it in two approaches. So you could either use point slope form. That was one approach. And remember, point slope form was or is y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. So that's one of the approaches that you could use to find the equation of that line that we're interested in. Some of you could use the other approach. And so the other approach is to use slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. All right, so either approach would be fine. So you could do it this way or you could do it this way. Okay? All right, now let's do the first approach. So in the first approach, if I'm going to use point slope form, then I've got to determine, or I have to know the slope and a point on that line, which I do. I know the slope and a point on that line. So the slope I know is 3/4, and then a point on that line I know is 3, -8. Okay? All right, so if I'm going to use point slope form, I've got to know a point on that line and I've got to know the slope. So the point I'm going to represent as x1, y1. Okay, that's important, x1, y1. And so then I'm going to substitute this information into this formula now. So I get y minus y1, which is -8. So y subtract the -8 equals 3/4 times x subtract x1, which is 3. And then once you do that, you're then going to use the distributive property, and then you're going to solve for y. Okay, so before I use the distributive property, I want you to also know that, you see where it says y subtract -8? All right, so you need to know that that means y plus 8. So it's important you write it as y plus 8. Because remember, subtraction means adding the opposite. So the opposite of a -8 is a positive 8. So that becomes y plus 8 equal, and then we'll go ahead and distribute this. So 3/4 times x is 3/4 x, and then 3/4 times a -3 is a -9/4. So remember how I got that. So I'm saying 3/4 times 3, right? Or -3, but so we know it's going to be a subtraction. But let's just look at it in terms of 3/4 times 3. So 3 I can write as 3 divided by 1. And then you multiply the numerator. So when you multiply in fractions, you multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. So you got 9/4. So that's what you see here. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get y by itself. So you're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Notice I'm aligning my like terms. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And then combine like terms. The 8 and -8 are opposites. When you add them up, you get 0. So you get y equals 3/4 x. And then you have to figure out what -9/4 and a -8 is. So I'll just do that here. A -9/4 and a -8 divided by 1, right? So now you got to find equivalent fractions. Okay, so the LCD is 4. So I'm going to say 4 subtract another fraction divided by 4. And so you're going to write equivalent fractions. So -9/4, you have to recognize that -9/4 is equivalent to itself. So -9/4. Now 8 divided by 1, or just 8, is equivalent to what fraction with a denominator of 4, right? So right now, 8 divided by 1, my denominator is 1. So to get that to be a 4, I need to multiply 1 by 4. And what I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So 8 times 4 is 32. And so you have a -9/4 subtract 32/4. But remember, subtraction, if that confuses you right here, just remember subtraction means adding the opposite. So the opposite of a positive 32 would be a -32. So you have to recognize that this numerical expression that I just wrote means the same thing as, say, -9/4 plus a -32/4, if that helps you. And so now when I add those two fractions together, since they have the same denominator, I'm going to get a -41/4. And so that goes here, negative 41 fourths. And there's your equation. So I wrote the equation in slope-intercept form. So notice the slope is 3 fourths, and the y-intercept, remember intercept form, that's your y-intercept. So the y-intercept is negative 41 fourths. So if you look at it in terms of a calculator, that intercept, so negative 41 divided by 4. So that means that the graph is going to cross the y-axis at negative 10 and a fourth. So negative 10.25. Okay. All right. Now, some of you could have done it the other way, right? So let's see if we get the same answer. So if you do it this way, you're going to say, now remember you're given two pieces of information. You're given that the slope is 3 fourths, and you're given a point on that line, and the point is 3, negative 8. So if I'm going to go directly to this instead of doing this approach, then I've got to recognize that I know the slope, that's m, and I know a point of that line. And so to substitute this into that equation, that's going to be substituting to x and y. Here, I had to substitute into x1, y1. Here, that's just going to be xy. So I'm going to say xy here, and then I'm going to substitute. So y is negative 8 equal the slope, which is 3 fourths, times x, which is 3, plus b. So then I'm going to solve for b. So I have an equation with the variable b. Now remember, b means the y-intercept. So let's go ahead and multiply these two factors here. So 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 1 is 4. So I get negative 8 equals 9 fourths plus b. Now that 9 fourths should look familiar. That's this right here, right? See that 9 fourths right here? Although it's listed as a negative 9 fourths. All right, then let's go ahead and subtract 9 fourths from both sides to solve for b. So I'm going to subtract 9 fourths. And when I do that and combine like terms, I get b equal negative 8 subtract 9 fourths. And then what you see here is now this right here. Okay? So then you would do all this work just like you did here, and you would get b to equal negative 41 fourths. So that's your y-intercept. Now, if you use this approach, remember you're not done here. All you've done was find the y-intercept. So now you got to write your equation. So the equation, now you got to write the equation. So the equation in slope-intercept form, remember, is y equals mx plus b. So if I'm going to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, you've got to know the slope and the y-intercept. And now I do. Slope is 3 fourths, and the y-intercept is now negative 41 fourths. So you say y equals 3 fourths x minus 41 fourths. So you get the same answer, regardless of which approach you take. Now, before I go into the next problem, I just want to show you something. So I just want to show you what the graph of this, all right, and then what it is you just found. All right, but that's it. You're done with this problem. So you either show this or you show this with your answers, okay, with the equation. But let's go ahead and graph this line here that I'm looking at. So you know that this line goes through this point, 3, negative 8. So that means that 3, negative 8 right here, 3, negative 8 is a point on that line, right? All right, and you know the slope of that line is 3 fourths. So remember, the slope is positive, right? So that means that this line that goes to this point right here, this line that goes to that point better rise. As you go from left to right, it better go up. It better rise. So remember, slope, a line that has a positive slope rises from left to right. But I want to actually graph that line. So remember, to graph a line, you need 2 points. I already know one. I've got to find the other. So I'm going to use the idea of rise over run. Remember, slope is rise divided by run. And my rise is positive and my run is positive. Positive 3, positive 4. So we're going to start at the point that's on the line, this point 3, negative 8. And you always do rise first. So rise means go up, down. Run means go left, right. So since my rise is positive, I'm going to go up. If my rise was negative, I would go down. So I'm going to go up 3 because my rise is 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Don't put a little dot here because then you're indicating a point of that line is this point here, which is not. You just kind of hover over that coordinate right here. So then my run is positive 4, so I'm going to go to the right 4. 1. I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here. And so then the coordinates of this point here would be 7, negative 5. 7, negative 5. And then all you do is just go ahead now and then graph your line. And let's see, I get something that looks like this. Okay? All right. And so what I found here, let me put it this way. What I found here, see this equation? This equation is actually the equation of this line. So this is y equals 3/4 x minus 41/4. That's what you found. And then notice, remember the negative 41/4? That is this negative 10 and 2/5. I'm sorry, negative 10.25 or negative 10 and a fourth. That's the y-intercept. So notice it crosses the y-axis around negative 10.25. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this. You didn't have to do this for this problem because it didn't ask you to graph. It just said find the equation of the line, and you're done. I just wanted you to make the connection between what you're dealing with here and what the graph looks like. All right. Okay, so that was 21. Now let's look at 22. So in 22, we have this situation. So here's 22. This time you're given 2 points. In the previous problem, if you go back to the previous problem, you were given a point and the slope. Here, you're not given the slope, but you're given 2 points, right? So if I'm going to find the equation of a line, remember I can use either approach, point slope or slope intercept. But regardless of which one I use, notice that both of those you have to know the slope. If you're going to use point slope, you need to know the slope. If you use slope intercept, you need to know the slope, right? So in this situation, you don't know the slope, but you have 2 points that will help you find the slope. So remember the slope formula. So the first thing you're going to do, first you got to find the slope. Find the slope of the line. All right, so the slope formula is this. Slope is, remember, we just talked about rise over run. So that's a change in y divided by a change in x. So it'll be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And just as was discussed in class or the videos, the order matters when finding slope. So if you put y2 first in the numerator, then for the denominator, when you subtract your x coordinates, you got to put the x2 first. All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and rewrite the points. So my points are 6, 5, and then negative 2, 8. So sometimes it helps to label these points, to label the points using these subscripts here, y2, y1, x2, x1. So if this is my first point and this is my second point, then I'm going to denote the 6 as x1 and the 5 as y1. In the second point, I'm going to denote the negative 2 as x2 and 8 as y2. And then we're going to substitute. So I get the slope equals 8. So remember, y2 subtract y1. So here's your y2, here's your y1. So you can say 8 subtract 5 divided by, and then x2. Since I started with y2, I have to start with x2. So x2, which is negative 2, subtract x1, which is 6. And so then I get 8 subtract 5 is 3. A negative 2 subtract 6 means negative 2 and a negative 6. So plus a negative 6, that's a negative 8. So I get a negative 3/8. All right, so there's your slope. Okay, now I found the slope. Now I want to find the equation of the line. So remember, there are 2 approaches you could use. Some of you will use point slope. Some of you use slope intercept form. Does not matter. All right, so let's go ahead and use, so let's do both. So some of you are going to say, I'm going to use point slope form. Okay, that's fine. If you use point slope form, you're going to say y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, right? Okay, so if I'm going to use point slope form, I need to know the slope, which I do, it's negative 3/8, and I need to know a point in that line, right? Well, there are 2 points. It does not matter which one you use. You could use this one, or you can use this one. Does not matter. All right, so let's go ahead. So I'm going to write out slope equals negative 3/8, and then for the point, for our point, let's go ahead and use 6, 5. Does not matter. You'll still get the same answer. So so this will be your x1, this will be your y1. x1, y1. So I get y subtract 5 equals the slope, which is negative 3/8, times x subtract x1, which is 6. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and distribute to get y by itself because it indicates you want the answer in slope-intercept form. So I get y subtract 5 equals, all right, negative 3/8 times x is a negative 3/8 x. Now, a negative times a negative is a positive, so you can say plus. All right, now let's look at what we have. So I have 3/8 times 6, right? A negative 3/8 times a negative 6 will be a positive. So I'm just going to say 3/8 times 6 divided by 1. So you could multiply first or you could reduce first. Does not matter. Some of you are going to forget about the fact that you can reduce and multiply, and that's fine. 3 times 6 is 18. 8 times 1 is 8. But you have to reduce now. So 18/8 are both divisible by 2. And so you're going to say 18 divided by 2 is 9. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So you get 9/4. So you get plus 9/4. All right, and then you get y by itself. You're going to go ahead and add 5 to both sides. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Negative 5 and 5 is 0. So I get y equal negative 3/8 x. And then you just got to figure out what 9/4 plus 5 is. So let's go ahead and let me just do it on here. So 9/4 plus 5 divided by 1. The LCD is 4, so you're going to write two fractions with the denominator being 4. So 9/4 is equivalent to itself. 5 divided by 1, I got to find out 5 divided by 1 is equivalent to what fraction with 4 is the denominator. So you can say 1 times 4, 5 times 4, 5 times 4 is 20. And so then you add them up, you get 29/4. All right, so 29/4 will go here. And there's your equation with a line. You're done. Okay. Now, just to show you, some of you, and I'm going to do an or here, so some of you may have done this. So still using point slope form. The point earlier was that it did not matter which point you used, right? So some of you could have used this point here, and I'll do that just to show you get the same answer. So someone else could have said, well, I'm going to use the point being negative 2/8. Does not matter. x1, y1. So the slope, remember, is still negative 3/8. So you're going to say y minus 8 equals the slope, which is negative 3/8, times x subtract x1, which is a negative 2. All right, now before you distribute, you need to rewrite x subtract negative 2 in simplified version. So x subtract negative 2 means x plus 2. So you need to do that, otherwise you may mess up with this product that you're about to do. So y subtract 8 equals negative 3/8 times x plus 2. Now let's go ahead and distribute. So I get y subtract 8 equals negative 3/8 times x is a negative 3/8 x. A negative 3/8 times 2, a positive 2, is a negative number. So let's go ahead and figure out what that is. So 3/8 times 2 divided by 1. I can reduce, and it's probably easier to reduce here. You have it right away. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So you get 3/4 times 1 is 3/4, right? So you get 3/4. Then you're going to add 8 to both sides, just like this. And then combine like terms. This is 0, so you get y equal. And let's go ahead and add those two fractions here. So I have negative 3/4 plus 8 divided by 1, right? Negative 3/4 plus 8 divided by 1. So I have to find the least common denominator, which is 4. Negative 3/4 is equivalent to itself. So negative 3/4 is equivalent to negative 3/4. For 8 divided by 1, 8 divided by 1 is equivalent to what fraction with 4 as the denominator? So I've got to multiply this by 4, multiply this by 4. 8 times 4 is 32. And so a negative 3/4 plus a positive 32/4 is a positive 29/4, which is what I had here. See that? So I get y equals negative 3/8 x plus 29/4. All right. So using point slope form, it did not matter which point you use, you get the same answer. Now, if you're going to use the other approach, which is slope intercept form, let's see what we get. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So you could use slope intercept form, right? All right, so let's go and do that. And you'll see you get the same answer. So remember, slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So my slope, remember, is negative 3/8. And it did not, remember, does not matter which point you use. I'm not going to do both of them this time because of the time constraint that we have on this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this one because both of them are positive. So I'm going to use the point being 6, 5. So this is your x, this is your y, and there's your slope. So I get y, which is 5, equals the slope, which is negative 3/8, times x, which is 6, plus b. So now I've got to find b, which is your y-intercept, which you already know is this because from the previous two that we just did. So negative 3/8 times 6, negative 3 times 6 is 18, negative 18, right? So I get 5 equals negative 18/8 plus b. Now let's go ahead and reduce this. It makes things a lot easier if it's in simplest form. So negative 18/8, 18 and 8 are both divisible by 2, so I get 5 equals negative 9/4 plus b. So now adding 9/4 to both sides, all right, and then combining like terms, I get b equals, now 5 plus 9/4, I've already figured that out. See right here, I've already figured that out. So 5 plus 9/4 is going to be 29/4. And so, but be careful, remember, all you found was a y-intercept. Now you got to write the equation of a line. So now you have to write the equation. So that's the only thing you got to be careful with. With here, if you use point slope, you're going to end up with the equation in the end. Here, when you use slope intercept form, what you end up with is the y-intercept. You have to remember, hey, I've got to go back and write the equation. So remember, the equation is y equals mx plus b. And so you got to find the slope and the y-intercept to do that. So the slope we knew, the y-intercept we just found. So I get y equals negative 3/8 x and plus 29/4. All right. So regardless of which approach you take, you get the same answer. Now, if someone else had used the slope-intercept form with the other point, you would get the same answer. Okay. All right. So that is number 22. Okay, so let's look at number 23. So number 23, this time you want to find the equation of the line that contains this point and is perpendicular to this line. All right, and you want to find the equation in standard form. All right, so we're going to talk about what standard form, or remind ourselves what standard form is as we go through the process. But before I go on, I just want to show you what's happening in terms of this graph, which the problem did not say you had to do. But sometimes it helps to understand it when you look at the pictorial portion of it. So you're told that you want to find the equation of the line that goes to this point. So 2, negative 4. So here's 2, negative 4 right here. 2, negative 4. Okay, so this point, 2, negative 4, is a point on that line, and I don't know what that line looks like right now. It could be this, it could be this, and so on, right? As long as it contains this point. All right, but I do know this though. I know that it is perpendicular. So remember, perpendicular would mean that those two lines form right angles. They intersect and form right angles. But it's perpendicular to this line. So let's talk about that line right here. Just to remind ourselves. So the line y equals negative 2/7 plus 6. So let's go ahead and graph that line. So to graph a line, I just need 2 points, right? And so I'm going to use a t-table. Now, some of you may remember how to use slope-intercept to graph a line. We just did it in a previous problem. But one of the items on your test is going to say using a t-table, find at least 2 points on that line. All right, so this is what you're going to say. So notice that this equation is already in slope-intercept form. So y equals. So it's already in slope-intercept form. So you know right away, right, that the line is going to cross the y-axis at 6. But let's go ahead and actually find that point. So if x is 0, I get y equals negative 2 sevenths times 0 plus 6. Negative 2 sevenths times 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 equals 6. So this right here, whenever you let x equal 0, that is your y-intercept. And I need one more point. So you want, when graphing lines using a t-table, you want those coordinates to be integers, not decimals, not fractions, because then you would have to estimate where those points are located. So it helps if they are integers, like 0 and 6 are integers. So if you have a fraction here in your slope, always choose a value of x that's divisible by the denominator. So my denominator is 7, so I would probably want to use 7 or negative 7. 14, because 14 is divisible by 7, or negative 14. 21, so you want to use factors. You want to use numbers for x that has 7 as a factor, right? So if x is 7, I get y equals negative 2 sevenths times 7 plus 6. The 7's divide out, you get 1's in their place, so this is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4. And so if I plot those 2 points right here, 0, 6 and 7, 4, so 0, 6 is here, and then 7, 4 is right here. All right, and if I graph that line right here, if I graph that line, what I'm interested in is, see, remember that line right here that contained that point? I want to find the equation of that line that's perpendicular to this line. So I want this line to be perpendicular to that line right here. So remember, they form perpendicular lines form right angles. So this line here, remember, is y equals what was it again? It is y equals negative 2 sevenths x plus 6. And so what I'm interested in now is for this line, and you would need a protractor because it would be hard to estimate the right angle. So I don't know, it could be something like this, right, where it looks perpendicular. I don't want to draw it because it's probably not going to be correct, because I can't. Somewhere around here is where those two lines would be perpendicular, somewhere in this little area right here. So let me just go ahead and use a pencil so that way I could erase it. So you're trying to find, let's see, I'm trying to make it perpendicular. So you're trying to find a line that is, and I'm probably going to be off, but something like this. So you want to find the equation of this line, and these two lines are supposed to be perpendicular. Okay? So that's what you're interested in finding. What is the equation of that line that I just drew? Okay, so that's what you have to find, and so that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so to find the equation of a line, remember, to find the equation of a line, you need a point on that line, and you need the slope, okay, of that line. All right, so this line here that is drew, I know a point of that line, that's 2, negative 4, right? 2, negative 4. So I know the point of that line, 2, negative 4. But the problem is you're not told the slope of that line. So we got to find out the slope of that line. Okay? But here's what you have to think about. Okay? Well, I know that this line here, this line is perpendicular to that line, right? And I know the equation of that line here is this right here. And so since this is in slope-intercept form, y equals negative 2 sevenths x plus b, I know that the slope is negative 2 sevenths. So for this right here, I know the slope is negative 2 sevenths. Now negative 2 sevenths x, so don't put an x there because everything you write has to be mathematically correct. But you do know it's negative 2 sevenths. And so the slope of this line is negative 2 sevenths. The slope of the line I'm interested in is perpendicular to that, right? So So then what we are finding now is that if this slope is negative 2/7, then the slope of the line that's perpendicular to it is going to be the negative reciprocal. So this slope here, the slope of this line is negative 2/7. So the slope of the line that's perpendicular to this, which is this one, is going to be the negative reciprocal. So if this is negative, this one's going to be positive. And the reciprocal of 2/7 is 7/2. So that's the slope of the line. So then the slope of this line then is going to be 7/2. Okay. All right. So now you know the slope. Now you know the point and slope. So let's just go ahead since I don't want to use up a lot of time here. I'm going to go ahead and um, go ahead and just use one approach. So I'm going to go ahead and use one approach. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just use point slope form. So I'm going to use point slope form. All right, so point slope form is y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. And so here's my point. So this is going to be my x1, y1, and there's my slope. So I get y subtract y1, which is a negative 4, equals the slope, which is 7/2, times x subtract x1, which is 2. Before I distribute, let's go ahead and rewrite this. So I know that y subtract negative 4 means y plus 4. And then let's go ahead and distribute. So 7/2 times x is 7/2 x. And then subtract, because a positive times a negative is a negative. And then when I do that one, let's go ahead and be careful here. So when I do 7/2 times 2, I want you to notice that the 2's divide out, you get factors of 1. So this is 7 times 1, which is 7. So this is just 7. And so now to get y by itself, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. And so I get y equal 7/2 x. A negative 7 and a negative 4 is a negative 11. Okay, now be careful. So remember, you want to write the equation in standard form. So what I've done is I've written it in slope-intercept form. So standard form, remember is this right here. So this is standard form. So it's where you have ax plus by equal c. So ax plus by, let me write it like this, ax plus by equals c. So where you have all the variables on one side, the constants on the other. And the other thing is that you want a, b, and c to be integers. Okay, you want a, b, and c to be integers, so you don't want any fractions involved. So notice I have a fraction here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that denominator 2. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this over. Multiply by 2, both sides. And so now I'm going to have 2y equal, distribute the 2. 2 times 7/2 is 7. 7 times x is 7x. And then 2 times a negative 11 is a negative 22. Okay? And then we have to bring the 7x to the other side. So I get negative 7x plus 2y equal negative 22. All right, now, depending on the textbook, they will usually, some will say you want a to be positive. So you want a to be positive, so greater than 0, positive. So a is positive. The coefficient. When I say a is positive, I meant the, a. So a is positive means the coefficient of x. So you want the coefficient of x to be positive. So in this case, it's negative. Now, if you left it like this, I'll be fine, because some textbooks will say you just want a, b, and c to be integers. Does not say whether a has to be positive or not. So if you left it like this, I'll be fine. But I would prefer that you rewrite it to where a is positive. So all you do is just multiply both sides by negative 1. So negative 1 times 7x, negative 7x is 7x. Negative 1 times 2y is a negative 2y. And then negative 22 times 1 times negative 1 is a positive 22. All right, so either one of those is fine. But notice that this equation and this equation They are equivalent because to get from here to here, you just multiply this side by -1 and this side by -1. So what you do to the left, you do to the right. Okay? All right. So then what you found, just to let you know, what you found is the equation of this line now. So the equation of this line right here that you found is this. So the equation of that line right here is 7x minus 2y equal 22. That's what you found. All right, so that was 22. Now let's look at 23 real quick. So 23 is this problem right here, and it should not be perpendicular but parallel. So that's parallel. So the problem says parallel. All right, so we're going to find the equation of a line containing this point and is parallel to this line. And you want to write the equation in slope-intercept form. All right, so just like we did before, if you're going to find the equation of a line containing this point, you need to know the slope of that line. So you need the point on that line and the slopes. You need point and slope. Well, I know a point on that line. The point of that line is -3. I'm sorry, 3, -5. The only thing I don't know about this line here that goes to this point is the slope. But you do know that that line is parallel to this line right here. So it's parallel to -3x plus 4y equals 7. And so remember, parallel lines have the same slope. All right, so have slopes that are equal. So if I can find the slope of this line, then I know the slope of that line I'm interested in right here. Then I know the slope. So notice though that this line is not in slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and get y by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3x to both sides. And when I do that, I get 4y equals 3x plus 7. And then to get y by itself, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. And then reducing, I get y equal, I'm going to write this as two fractions, so I get 3/4 x plus 7/4. And now I know the slope. The slope of that line is 3/4. Well, if the slope of this line is 3/4 and those two lines here are parallel, then the slope of this line that I'm interested in has to also be 3/4. And then you just do the work and you're done. So y equals, I'm sorry, let's do point slope form. So use point slope form. I get y equal, oops, I keep doing y equals, y minus y1 equals a slope times x minus x1. So here's your x1, here's your y1. So I get y subtract a -5 equals a slope, which is 3/4, times x subtract x1, which is 3. Remember, y subtract -5 means y plus 5. Make sure you do that. And then let's go ahead and distribute. I get 3/4 times x is 3/4 x. 3/4 times -3 is a -9/4. For some reason, these problems, I keep getting -9/4. All right, and then subtracting 5 from both sides, I get y equals 3/4 x, and then a -9/4 and a -5. So let's go ahead and figure out what that is. A -9/4 and a -5. So -9/4 plus a -5 divided by 1. So the LCD is 4. I keep getting 9/4 with these, don't I? All right, and so -9/4 is equivalent to itself. -5 is equivalent to what fraction, which 4 is the denominator. So I need to multiply the 1 by 4 and the -5 by 4, and I get -20. So you get what, -29/4? All right, so it becomes -29/4. And there's your answer. Okay, so that's the equation of that line. So the equation of this line's -3x plus 4 equals 7, and the equation of the line that you're interested in is actually this one. Is this one. Okay. All right, so that's 24. Now let's look at 25, the very last one. So 25, this time you're dealing with a circle. And so you want to write the equation of a circle whose center is -2, 8 and whose radius has the length square root of 14. So remember the equation of a circle. The equation of a circle is this in standard form. In standard form, it is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. where HK is your center, right? And then R is your radius. So in this problem, you're told the center is negative 2, 8. So you're told that the center is negative 2, 8. Well, in the equation of a line, the equation of a circle, the center we're going to represent as HK. So that means that H is negative 2 and K is 8. So then we're going to substitute in a little while, and you're told the radius is the square root of 14. So we have all the information we need to make a substitution. So I get x minus h, which is a negative 2. I'm going to go ahead and square that, plus y minus k, which is 8. I'm going to square that difference. And that's going to equal r, which is square root of 14, but I got to square that as well. All right, so we're going to simplify a little bit further. Now, by simplifying this, I mean this. If you see x subtract negative 2, you need to know that subtracting a negative means an addition problem. So it becomes x plus 2. And then leave it as being squared. Don't multiply it out. Okay, leave it like that. I'm not asking you to multiply it out. Plus, and then this becomes y minus 8 squared equal, and I do expect you to simplify this, though. So the square root of 14 squared means the square root of 14 square root of 14, which is just 14. And that's the answer I want. Okay? All right, so that is problems 21 through 25. So that's the ones dealing with equations of lines, and then also we had one with the equation of a circle. All right, so that's the answers to those problems.